we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and wanted to have an open discussion.
My name is Patrick Christie's. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.
Good evening, this is GB News. We're going to go straight over to Washington, D.C. for the Late Show Live with the one and only Ben Leo. Ben, what's coming up on the show tonight?
Can I just say, Alex, I think Rachel Reeves is a superb Chancellor. I think the criticisms going her way is unfair. And I think, you know, over the next 4 years, give her a chance. I think we'll get some great growth. She's done a great job. And, yeah, April Fool's has come early, only joking. In more serious matters, Venezuela could be at the subject of a US land invasion imminently. President Trump, the State Department, saying that the airspace above Venezuela will be closed. Will this mean we see US troops, sailors, taking to the Venezuelan coastline and ousting President Maduro, by the way, who's got a $50 million bounty on his head? Elsewhere, I'll be telling you the details, it's a big joke actually, about the Albanian burglar who's been jailed twice in the UK, kicked out twice. Anyway, he's now back in London driving a Lamborghini and showing off his Rolex watch. All that plus more on The Late Show Live. Let's do this. Hello, good evening to you. Hope you're well. Breaking on The Late Show Live tonight.
It says Venezuela wants to talk. What does that mean?
Venezuela would like to talk. What does it mean? You tell me. I don't know.
The world holds its breath tonight because President Trump has declared Venezuela's airspace closed, US forces are in position, and we could be seconds away from a direct conflict breaking out between America and Venezuela.
We've tried interdiction for 30 years. It doesn't work. They lose 2% of their profit margin. Yep. They build it into the business plan. He says, now we're going to blow you up.
We'll bring you the latest from that rapidly developing story all throughout the show tonight, but also on The Late Show Live. Federal prosecutors say they'll seek the death penalty against the suspect in the Washington, D.C. National Guard shooting, which killed a 20-year-old troop and left another critically injured. But meanwhile, back in Blighty,
I see my own constituents deeply worried about the community tensions and a system that is out of control and is unfair. So the concern about migration is something that is shared by British people of every background and every ethnicity in this country.
A system out of control and, some would say, completely unfair. Well, you can say that again because tonight I'll expose the joke that is Britain's migration system. An Albanian burglar, jailed twice in the UK, deported twice, but now, get this, living in London and claiming refuge. Oh, and by the way, with a Lamborghini and a Rolex collection too. Wonder how we got that. But talking of jokes that aren't very funny.
I said I would cut the cost of living, and I meant it.
The Chancellor in crisis tonight. The screw is turning on Rachel Reeves because Labour's biggest union backer has broken ranks, accusing the Chancellor of shredding trust and tearing up promises to workers. And now, breaking in the last few hours, it's emerged the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, signed off on her black hole porkies. We'll also be cracking open tomorrow's front pages hours before the ink's dry and breaking the news before it comes to news. And of course, we're live in Washington, D.C., just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories America's talking about and that matter to Britain too, including this one.
At times, there is simply nothing else that can be required other than violent retaliation. And this is a view I wholeheartedly agree with.
Stood President-elect of Oxford University, who celebrated Charlie Kirk's death. Well, he's now apologising, but not with dignity. Instead, he's gone full woe is me, painting himself as the victim. Of course he is. Also tonight,
I want to settle the war, get it finished. Because if I'm not here, nobody's going to settle it.
Well, ever the businessman, President Trump is set to cut billion-dollar deals with Russia, eyeing post-war profits and shutting Europe out. America's winning, whilst Britain, well, we're missing out. I'm Ben Leo. This is The Late Show Live, and our night's just getting started. Hello, good morning to you. Hope you're well. Thank you for your company tonight. Before we get into the major news emerging out of Washington, Downing Street in the last few hours has reportedly admitted that Sir Keir Starmer knew there was no black hole and was told of the positive OBR forecast when it came to the budget, yet still signed off Rachel Reeves' claims that tax rises were, quote, necessary to fill the fiscal gap. Of course, we've heard for months and months and months since Labour took power that Rachel Reeves, the Labour government, were blaming the Tories for this imaginary black hole. First it was £20 billion, then it was 22, then it was £30 billion. It was, of course, according to the OBR, not true. But we're learning tonight in the Sunday Telegraph and indeed the Mail on Sunday tomorrow, it's going to be on your shelves, in your supermarkets, in your newsagents, that Keir Starmer knew the black hole rhetoric, the black hole fantasy was just that, absolute BS. So pressure tonight mounting on not just Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, but Keir Starmer himself. Is it time Rachel Reeves resigned? Is it time the PM resigned? And do we need a general election? More on that over the next 2 hours. But into the breaking news tonight here stateside. We may be moments away from a major international flashpoint because the situation between the United States and Venezuela has gone from tense to volatile to now potentially explosive, literally. President Trump has declared the entire airspace over Venezuela closed in a dramatic warning this morning which hints at imminent military action. On Truth Social, he wrote, "To all airlines, pilots, drug dealers and human traffickers, consider the airspace above surrounding Venezuela closed in its entirety." Now, legally, Washington can't close another country's skies, but when the Commander-in-Chief uses language like that, I guess it's not diplomacy, it's a warning shot, which has been listened to. And it's happening at the same time the United States has moved its largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, plus 15,000 troops to within striking distance of Caracas, the capital, of course, of Venezuela. The move is the biggest US deployment to the region in 36 years. And add to that, if it wasn't enough, B-52 bombers, fighter jets, surveillance aircraft, drones, all of which have been running drills off the Venezuelan coast in recent months. Tonight, the Federal Aviation Authority, this side of the pond, has also warned airlines of heightened military activity in the area. President Trump had already warned that operations to stop Venezuelan drug trafficking by land, quote unquote, would begin very soon. That warning came on Thursday. And tonight it seems like that could happen at any minute now because US forces have already launched 21 strikes on boats they say carried drugs all across the Caribbean Sea destined for America. 80 people have been blown into red mist. The White House has also designated the president and dictator of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, as a narco-terrorist and issued an arrest warrant for his capture, plus a $50 million bounty. Venezuela, meanwhile, they deny all the claims, of course, hitting out at America and President Trump as fiction.
Today, the Department of Justice and State Department are announcing a historic $50 million reward for information leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro. Maduro uses foreign terrorist organizations like TDA, Sinaloa, and Cartel of the Suns to bring deadly drugs and violence into our country.
Elsewhere, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, in a post on X, claims the US have, quote, only just begun to kill narco-terrorists. That's despite 80 of them being blown into smithereens. And the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has claimed Maduro, quote, is not the president of Venezuela, adding that his government was not legitimate. Tonight, we need to realise this. You do not move this level of firepower into position unless you're preparing for something or ready to respond to something imminently. With me now is the former spokesperson for Barack Obama, Federico A. de Jesus. Federico, good evening. Thank you for your company. What's your take on this? Are we moments away from a US land invasion of Venezuela, Federico?
Nice to see you, Ben. We don't know what Nicolas Maduro, the Venezuelan dictator, spoke with Trump about this week. That was leaked. It has been my theory from sources that I speak to that this is a psychological campaign as much as a military campaign to try to get Maduro ousted either by traitors in his midst in the regime or trying to entice him to leave. Some have speculated Turkey might be that country. But reality is that we're going to face a moment where either he leaves or the U.S. starts to bomb. And frankly, there's so many terrorist organizations out there. There's so many narco states out there. Why Venezuela? Is it the oil? Is it to distract from the Epstein files? these extrajudicial killings have led your country, the UK, to stop cooperating on some intelligence sharing on this issue. So Americans are really not having a debate about what this is all about, and the president really hasn't said what he wants to do.
Yeah, I think the proven oil reserves in Venezuela on its east coast are the largest in the world, totaling 300 billion barrels. Now, look, I'm not a crude oil expert by any means, but I was doing a little bit of research today, as you'd hopefully expect, and there is a massive cache of oil there. It's not as easy as other sites, say, for example, in the Middle East to extract, because it needs a bit more of a lengthy process. But, I mean, the US, let's say they're killing two birds in one stone, getting rid of Maduro, dealing with the narco drug problem, and, Brucey bonus, you've got loads of oil there as well. I guess it's not out of the realms of possibility, no?
Well, it's obvious that the US right now is interested in regime change. If there is a land invasion, having an Iraq in Latin America would not necessarily be in the best interest of the United States, but the chaos regionally that would sow could be in the best interest of Russia and China, even though they have a presence in Venezuela. And in terms of the oil, Maduro was already letting Chevron and other U.S. companies into the oil business there and made some entreaties, obviously, to stay in power that the U.S. rejected. So again, the question begs, there are countries, even in the region, with a lot more production of illegal drugs. Mexico, for example, and they also have oil, right? So what is it about Venezuela? Is it political because of Florida? Is it to distract from Epstein? Or is there some intelligence that the U.S. is obviously not sharing? I don't think that the president has made the case to the American people or the world, frankly, that this is a necessary military intervention. And the last point is that Trump, authorize covert operations by the CIA, which I understood that they were trying to plot a coup like the U.S. used to do in the old days in the 20th century. All of that is on the table, but again, the hour is near for something to come to a head. Either Maduro leaves or the U.S. will obviously start to bomb, and what the scope of that is, whether it's limited like in Iran or whether it's actually like a U.S. Invasion of Iraq style in Latin America, will be told when we see it on GB News.
OK, I'm joined by my panel here in DC, the former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner, and political commentator Hilary Fordwich. Good evening to you both. Thank you for your company. Niall, of course, Maggie infamously led us to victory in the Falklands. What would your advice be to the United States tonight? And what do you think the intention here is? Of course, we're told by Hegseth and the White House and the intelligence agencies that it's about narco drug trafficking, which it may well be on the surface. But is there an additional reason here to go into Venezuela? The oil?
Well, it's great to be here on the show tonight, Ben. And I think that President Trump is absolutely right to be raising the stakes here, to be raising the pressure on Maduro, who is an absolute monster. And the Maduro regime is responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of Americans every year. Let's not forget that. And the U.S. has every right to strike against this regime, to save American lives. So I'm with the President 100% on this. And this, at the end of the day, is about taking on the drug cartels, dealing with, in my view, a barbaric regime that is actively killing American people. Yeah. And so President Trump has every right to use military force against the Maduro regime and against the drug cartels which it controls, because ultimately this will be saving large numbers of American lives, and that's the president's job at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think the number quoted from the White House was something like 300,000 lives saved from drug deaths each year.
Well, yes, and then look at the fact that overall the amount of deaths, I'm exactly with Niall on this, the amount of deaths are more than every American that's died in every war that the US has been in. So I think that's a ghastly number. And also, don't forget, it's not just deaths, it's deaths for profit, because where's that money going to? And we know Maduro is obviously a huge beneficiary of this, which is why he's gone missing. However, what I do understand is that President Trump was on the phone with him last week. I don't know what was that conversation, but they were on the phone last week, which to me is somewhat helpful. I do think one other issue, though, is that President Trump has said there will be a land invasion. We will be using troops if we don't see any results soon, which is going to escalate.
There is a UK link to this panel, and Federico, if you're still there on the line, there is a UK link because some months ago the British, our dear country, our intelligence agency, said that they'd stopped sharing intelligence with the United States to do with narco traffickers in the Caribbean Sea. I think the reason was because the US being accused of not adhering to international law, international order, you know, no due process, just picking out narco boats in the Caribbean, careering across the water and just blowing them up, which wasn't to sort of Labour government's taste. But
an absolute disgrace, I think, by the Labour government.
Yes.
Well, Marco Rubio tonight has said in a video, where is it, quote unquote, he's basically told Europe to get their own house in order, and says that this is a problem in our own hemisphere, nothing to do with Europe, and don't come to us at a time when you're begging for Tomahawk missiles, arms for Ukraine, you want the United States to back you up militarily, and then at the same time stitch us up by not allowing us to have your intelligence in the Caribbean Sea now.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that the response by the British Labour government is absolutely appalling and abhorrent. This is a very left-wing socialist government in power in the UK, and they're knifing the United States in the back instead of offering full support for the United States. So I think it's in Britain's interests as well that we see these narco-terrorists being taken out. But such is the I think the low level of the Keir Starmer government, frankly, and its policies, that they're siding with Maduro over President Trump, and this is absolutely disgraceful. Actually.
Well, I guess they deny Hillary their siding, but their problem's international law.
Right, and what I've always said is when the US has always been obviously a major funder of NATO, provided for the security of Europe, and is wanted obviously in Ukraine, what I've always said, could you imagine saying to the British taxpayer, the Belgian taxpayer, the Dutch taxpayer, can you imagine saying to them, by the way, we want your funds to actually protect the US via the southern border? The answer from them would have been, what? No, and now we're actually seeing that for all the years that the US has actually funded NATO, look what's happened.
Okay, Federico, last word to you. I just want to read you this quote from Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. He said, I don't think the European Union gets to determine what international law is, and what they certainly don't get to determine is how the United States defends its national security. The United States is under attack from organised criminal narco-terrorists in our own hemisphere, and the President is responding in the defence of our country. That's a direct barb, Federico, to the European Union, the UK as well. The US just acting in your own interests. You're setting the example. To hell with the EU, to hell with the UK, Federico.
Well, look, these are extrajudicial killings, and Europe and the UK do have a right to share or not share intelligence with the United States. But there's a level of hypocrisy because today Donald Trump announced that he would pardon the former president of Honduras, who was convicted in the United States of narco trafficking. So this level of hypocrisy leads again to the question, why is the United States doing this? There are a lot worse regimes. Maduro's a dictator, but why Venezuela? Why now? I think that there's a lot of questions that Donald Trump hasn't answered to the American people.
All right, Federico, thank you for your company. Nice to see you again. Hopefully see you in the studio fairly shortly. And panel, thank you very much. We'll be back in just a sec. Stick with us on The Late Show Live tonight, because this breaking story from the papers tomorrow, the Daily Telegraph, the Mail on Sunday, pressure tonight heaping on not just Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, who's been told to, accused of telling massive porkies. I was at Disneyland a couple of weeks ago, and she would thoroughly enjoy the Pinocchio section, let me tell you. Keir Starmer tonight has been accused of knowing that the the black hole, the £20 billion black hole, was absolute BS. So pressure on him, keep an eye on that. Still ahead though on The Late Show Live tonight, we'll of course keep you across the latest developments on that tense situation between the US and Venezuela, and bring you the updates as we get them. But elsewhere tonight.
Au-dessus de mes limites, au-dessus du ciel. J'ai l'impression que tout va trop vite en galère, qu'il faut qu'on évite. Regarde dans le vide, t'oses bomber les nerfs à vif. Chaque jour que je fais est un
Dear me, yeah, that's not a Premier League footballer there. It's an Albanian burglar, jailed twice in the UK, deported twice, we kicked him out. Well, he's now living back in West London and claiming refuge. And he's driving around in a Lamborghini worth £184,000, and he's got a nice little Rolex watch collection too. Only in Britain, eh? Back in the tick on The Late Show Live.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Turn of politics to public service. When the gap between the sacrifices made by people and the service they receive from politicians grows this big, it leads to a weariness in the heart of a nation. This lack of trust can only be healed by actions, not words. I know that.
Oh, well, there's certainly a weariness in my heart tonight over this government, and it's not from the cold I picked up on the plane coming back from Britain. It is a disbelief that nobody falls on their sword. And also, by the way, this government just proved themselves totally untrustworthy. Whether they lie deliberately or they lie through incompetence by mistake, they are totally untrustworthy. Totally. So, Prime Minister, why is the front page of The Telegraph tomorrow accusing you of signing off on lies about the state of public's finances? That's coming up very shortly. But first, Britain's asylum system has become a global laughingstock.
Au-dessus de mes limites, au-dessus du ciel. J'ai l'impression que tout va trop vite en galère qu'il faut qu'on évite. Regarde dans le vide, t'oses bomber les nerfs à vivre. Chaque jour que Dieu fait est un bras.
An Albanian national and convicted criminal who has been already deported twice from Britain. We've kicked him out twice. He's now living back in West London, where he's driving Lamborghinis and flashing luxury watches to his thousands of social media followers in plain sight. He's a burglar. He's been convicted of raiding people's homes back in England. Yet, the Home Office can't remove him. We can't kick him out, as under Article 8 of the ECHR, they have to wait for his asylum application to be heard. And under that same system, the government has now confirmed that taxpayers have been footing the bill for migrant taxi rides, something the Home Secretary has pledged to end. So the taxi rides come from asylum hotels. They take migrants to dentist appointments, GP appointments in private taxis, and we pay for them. Of course we do. Joining me from our London studio is the journalist and reporter who helps break this story in the Daily Mail today, Isaac Crosney. Isaac, good evening. Thank you for coming in and speaking to us. Great story today. Big double-page spread in the Daily Mail. This guy, Dorian Puka, he's an Albanian. Just tell us about him. What happened to him? How many times has he been kicked out? What type of guy is he? And why did you find him today? Why did you go and doorstep him?
Well, thank you, Ben. Thank you for having me. Good to see you again. Yeah, he is a deeply, deeply unpleasant individual. A brief background: in 2016, he was first jailed for 9 months. That was for an attempted break-in after he got caught. We then deported him. Within 1 year, he was back. He was back in the country, carried out a number of burglary sprees, got 3.5 years for that. He was deported again in March 2020. Later that year, he was back by December. He then went through the route that you were just describing, lodged an asylum claim. He's been here ever since. And looking, as you say, looking at that TikTok and that footage now, he's taken the absolute mick. A deeply, deeply unpleasant individual.
So he's driving around in Lamborghinis, Porsches. I think the Lamborghini on his driveway that was pictured in the Daily Mail today is worth £184,000. There's a Rolex watch on his wrist. I mean, they're pretty spenny as well. Isaac, where's he getting his money from?
Well, that is a great question. I think that is a fantastic question. It's a question that I would like to think that those in authorities are also going to ask now. As you say, a great piece in the Daily Mail today, a double-page spread, hopefully will get some power and holding to this guy to account. Where's he got it from? He lives in a very modest sort of £250,000 house in Hounslow, West London, drives, as you say, these ridiculously expensive cars, Rolexes, luxury meals out and that sort of thing. It's a brilliant question. I would like the police to get to the bottom of it because I think it needs to be thoroughly investigated.
Well, Isaac, maybe he's just doing a hard day's graft, you know, waking up at 6 in the morning, going out to work in the market, and then, well, actually, he can't work if he's an illegal, if he's a refugee, can he? Isaac, let me bring my panel here in DC into the conversation. Former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner, and the political commentator, Hilary Fordwich. Hilary, why is the UK entertaining absolute wrong-uns like this guy? He's been convicted of burglary twice, he's been jailed twice, he's been kicked out, somehow he got back into the country again, maybe we can try and ask the Home Office,
right.
And now he's bombing around London in supercars and showing off his nice watch collection.
Well, your question is wonderful. Like, who has the answer? Obviously no one, because they would have done something about it. And I think most people might have the same reaction that I do, which is the last time I was in London, I had a speeding ticket for doing 36 in a 35-mile-an-hour zone for the tune of £185. I'm wondering, why on earth am I paying that when this chap's getting away with all this?
Yeah, why bother? How many points have you got, Hilary, on your license?
I know.
How many
1
points
mile over the speed limit.
I won't say how many I've got. It's embarrassing. It's very close to the edge. Niall, what do you make of this? What would President Trump do in this situation? If that story broke in the United States, Isaac was here in the US, he doorstepped this guy, it was found that he'd done what he'd done, kicked out, come back. What would Trump do? What would the US government do?
Well, this nasty, useless thug would be deported immediately from the United States. There's zero tolerance.
Yeah, but Niall, the ECHR, what about its human rights?
Yeah, so the Americans don't care about ECHR, and nor should the British, but this Labour government is beholden to the ECHR, and the UK should leave these horrendous European courts that restrict British sovereignty and self-determination. And the British government should be deporting immigrant thugs, illegal migrant thugs like this from the UK. Clearly, long, extensive criminal record. It's outrageous that these individuals are living in the UK freely. President Trump would throw them all out straight away. And that's what we're seeing in the United States right now. Hundreds of thousands of deportations of illegal migrants. We should be getting rid of these people, frankly.
Yeah. And actually, they shouldn't be here in the first place. And that's another thing President Trump's done. It's the prevention. He's actually prevented them from coming. And the only thing that compounds it in the UK, just like the US, but even worse in the UK, 6 months free housing in a 4-star hotel, free food and a cell phone.
Yeah. 0 illegal migrant releases in the United States under President Trump.
Yes.
0.
Zero.
Isaac, on gbnews.com/you'll say, Christine has said, Isaac, Well done exposing this piece of filth. Tell me, please, tell our viewers, Isaac, what was it like doorstepping him? Did he welcome you in for a cup of tea, or what was he like?
He certainly didn't know, and you asked a minute ago, is he at work? He certainly wasn't at work on Thursday this week when I knocked on his door. I was with a photographer, we knocked a couple of times, no answer. We were driving away, we were actually going to go and visit one of his relatives when we suddenly saw this car in the background follow us. It was chasing us, driving quite dangerously. To cut a long story short, he got out, hurled a lot of abuse, a lot of sort of swear words and sort of what sounded a bit threatening. He clearly didn't want his photograph taken. I took a quick photo of him while in the passenger seat and a photographer driving. Yeah, he certainly didn't want this story to be brought to public attention. In the last few minutes, just before I came on air, I've just realised he's tried to add me on Instagram and he's posting a load of abuse about me now on his TikTok. So if he might even be, he probably will be watching this as well, and hopefully
he's watching tonight.
Yes. He probably is. I'm sure he'll certainly will be. Hopefully he can take on board some of the points that we've been putting across and goes home.
Oh, Dorian Puka, if you're watching The Late Show Live, first of all, thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate your loyalty to the show. Second of all, go back to Albania. Nobody wants you in Britain. You're a criminal, you're a convict, you're a thief. Albania is a safe country. You're not at war. 250,000 Brits each and every year go to Albania. Go home, Dorian. No one wants you here. Isaac, well done. Stay safe, my friend, and we'll catch up soon. A Home Office spokesperson has said this government will not allow foreign criminals and illegal migrants to exploit our laws, which is why we are reforming human rights laws and replacing the broken appeal system, which allows us to scale up deportations, which will make Britain a less attractive destination for illegal migrants and will make it easier to remove and deport them. I'll tell you what Dorian Puka needs. He needs a visit from ICE, the US Immigration Customs Enforcement. Knock, knock, knock. Right, coming up on The Late Show Live.
At times, there is simply nothing else that can be required other than violent retaliation. And this is a view I wholeheartedly agree with.
The ousted president-elect of Oxford University, who celebrated Charlie Kirk's death, the student union at Oxford Uni, who celebrated Charlie Kirk's death, well, he's now apologised. He said, mea culpa, I'm sorry, but he's also gone full woe is me, painting himself as the victim. But also tonight,
£22 billion black hole in the public finances left by the party opposites.
as thick as thieves, Starmer and Reeves. Well, it's got a bit of a ring to it, hasn't it? Well, tonight the Daily Telegraph is reporting that the Prime Minister was aware, he knew, he was told there was no black hole, it was BS, fantasy, in the public finances, and yet approved Rachel Reeves' lies that exaggerated the fiscal shortfall in Britain. Is it time for both of them, Starmer and Reeves, to go? This is The Late Show Live, back in just a tick.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air, gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
£22 billion black hole in the public finances left by the party opposites.
A major breaking story tonight is that the Prime Minister reportedly knew there was no black hole in the public finances, and yet he still allowed Rachel Reeves to stand at the dispatch box and warn Britain of a shortfall that simply did not exist. Not true. BS. Fantasy. Dreamland. Downing Street tonight says Rachel Reeves' claims were, quote, entirely accurate, but the OBR's own published accounts show the Treasury overstated the problem, exaggerated the gap and talked up a crisis just to justify £30 billion worth of tax rises. Britain now suffering the highest tax burden in history. And Labour's biggest donor has also turned on the Chancellor tonight, with the head of the Unite Union, Sharon Graham, accusing Reeves of betraying workers with her budget. So is it time for both the Chancellor and indeed the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, to resign and fall on their sword? With me now is the political commentator Benedict Spence. Benedict, two really damning front pages in the papers tomorrow, the Telegraph and the Mail. What's your take? Is it time for him to go and take Reeves with him?
Well, I think it's high time that this administration was actually shown the back door and actually got rid of. But finally, it seems that we have something that we can particularly nail them to. I think that this is an egregious thing to have happened, and you know, for so much time now, the country has been sort of labouring under this impression that actually there was this dreadful shortfall in the public finances, and that this was going to be what was used to justify a significant uptick in our taxation. This has led to real-world consequences. This will have had business implications. People will have decided whether or not they are going to emigrate from this country, whether or not they are going to invest or not in this country as a result of the scaremongering that was coming out. You know, quite aside from the fact that the public may well have been lied to, there have been consequences as a result of this. And I think it's pretty disgraceful, frankly, that this has been used potentially as a cover simply for a series of ideological tax rises to fund welfare because the party is not mature enough to cut spending. Yes, I think finally this is the moment at which most people, including a lot of Labour backbenchers, I think, should be able to get the gumption and say these two need to go.
Yeah. And there's so many different strands to this. It's developing actually hour by hour. Apparently the head of the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, has hinted, Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, has written to the head of the FCA, basically saying that it was market manipulation. Gilt yields were volatile, the markets were volatile in the lead up to the budget because Rachel Reeves was giving a doom-mongering warning to the country and to our financial institutions. And actually, that was all fueled by a nonsensical black hole. So Mel Stride, at least, is saying this is market manipulation, market abuse. Forget resigning. She needs to face some sort of criminal investigation.
I think if there are grounds for an investigation, then they absolutely have to be investigated. Just because you're the Chancellor of the Exchequer doesn't mean that you can get away with this sort of thing. But, you know, I just sort of, I go back ultimately to the sheer amount of pain that has actually been inflicted on so many taxpayers in this country, and the fact that we've also seen as a result of this a trend beginning in terms of younger people, especially younger people, beginning the process of emigrating from this country because they don't see much of a future because of the tax burden that's being placed on them. As you alluded to earlier on, this is now the highest tax burden in this country's history. You'd think we were at war or something like that to try and justify that, but we're not. All that this is because this party that came into government promising a new grown-up approach to politics, as it turns out, didn't have much of a plan, doesn't have the wherewithal to face down its own backbenchers, cannot get it into its head that you have to cut spending at some point if you are going to stop the ever-growing bloat of the state. That is why we have all been put in this position, and if it turns out that that people have been misled, I think people would be absolutely furious. We were talking about whether or not the Prime Minister and the Chancellor had broken an election manifesto, a manifesto pledge by saying, would she put up income tax, would she not? I think this is of altogether measure significantly more serious than this.
All right, Benedict, hold on the line. Stephen Pound is here, former Labour MP. Stephen, good morning. Thank you for joining us. And not a good look, is it, these front pages tomorrow for Starmer and Reeves? Who of them should go? Maybe both of them, Stephen?
Absolutely no. It'd be ludicrous. It'd be completely unpatriotic even to think about junking, the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the Prime Minister. What that happened, there'd be a run on the bond market.
Hang on a minute, Stephen. Unpatriotic. She's been caught metaphorically with her pants down lying. She's got a nose bigger than Pinocchio.
Sorry, I mean, that's not worthy of you. You're a better journalist than that. You don't use expressions like that. Look, she's not been caught in any way, shape or form. This is a speculative piece of analysis. Had there been any evidence whatsoever that there had not been this so-called black hole, do you not think it would have come out in the last 14 months? I mean, come on. People have been sitting on this since June last year, and they've only now revealed it. I'm sorry, this is just specious. You can argue one way or the other whether it's
so the OBR's lying, are they, Stephen?
Sorry?
The OBR's lying, are they?
No, of course they're not lying. What it happens is people have different views on different. I mean, lies, damned lies, and statistics may well be the truth, but the reality is that one economist will say there is, another economist will say there isn't. So the evidence that the Chancellor of the Exchequer had when she was the shadow Chancellor, and now she's the Chancellor, was that there is a massive shortfall in the amount of expenditure, the difference between what we spend and what we earn. And there's nobody can possibly deny that. Are you seriously suggesting that in the last days of Rishi Sunak's government, we were actually swimming in cash, we had no need to borrow, because they were borrowing like sailors on shore leave?
Benedict, your response to that?
I mean, I'm prepared to believe that there is a shortfall, is the thing. But the point is it actually that large? And this is, I think, part of the problem. And, I take Stephen's point, which is, of course, the age-old adage that you can always find an economist to sort of fit your particular viewpoint. But ultimately, what we have here then, if let's say hypothetically that we're not going to lose the Chancellor, and I don't actually think that the Chancellor will resign. I don't think that, that she or Keir Starmer would ever have the gumption to do it of their own volition. I think they'd have to be forced out anyway. But I don't see how the Chancellor can survive and the Office for Budgetary Responsibility survive as well. I don't see how it can be that you have this organisation that's supposed to sort of sit atop all of this and be separate, saying, actually, no, we're going to be starting to publish minutes and we're going to be publishing correspondence to say that what the Chancellor has been saying is not in fact true. How can you have these two offices of state sort of going off at each other? How can the OBR survive in that case? Either way, something's got to give, and it's not going to be the Chancellor. Maybe it has to be the OBR, because I don't see how these two things can continue in this bizarre sort of dance at the moment. Clearly, one of them has to be telling the truth, and the other one isn't. I would like to know which one it is.
Colin, Stephen, who's going? Who's falling on their sword? The OBR or Rachel Reeves?
Yeah, well, no. The reality is that the OBR have got questions to answer. When George Osborne set up the OBR, if you remember, the idea was that this was going to be the Simon Pure or agency outside political intervention that could actually come up with the truth and the reality. Because politicians are so-and-sos when it comes to actually talking about the national debt and the need to raise taxes. So the idea was we were going to take it away from the political arena and have these people completely objective, entirely intelligent economists and statisticians, and they were going to come up with stats and facts. The reality is Benedict makes good points, and he always does, but the reality is is that the OBR have come up with one set of figures. A couple of weeks later, they come up with another. A couple of months later, they come up with yet another. So the idea that the Chancellor of the Exchequer has somehow got access to perfect data, my friend, perfect data doesn't exist anywhere in the world, not particularly in the world of economics.
Well, it's interesting. I didn't see people piping up to defend Liz Truss when the OBR screwed her over and she was calling for the abolition of the OBR. But now it's a Labour Chancellor. The OBR's wrong.
The bond market's pulled the rug on Liz Truss. What Liz Truss lost was international credibility. Since the Rachel Reeves budget on Wednesday, the bond markets have strengthened, the FTSE's gone up, and the dollar's actually, the pound is stronger against the dollar. All the indications are that she's actually done a decent job. This is not politics.
People are still skint. They can't afford. Stephen, people are still, they don't care about the FTSE being up. People are still skint. They can't afford their energy bills. Cost of living is going through the roof, etc., etc. And by the way, talk about credibility. Rachel Reeves, question marks over her expenses at HBOS, question marks over was she really an economist at the Bank of England, question marks over the fiasco with the property she was renting out from a few weeks ago, question marks now over the black hole. If this was 20 years ago, Stephen, you're not a stupid guy. You're a veteran former Labour MP. They would have resigned after one of these scandals, let alone 3, 4, 5 of them. It's a disgrace. No one takes responsibility. And I said last night, we sit there and mutter about it and then we move on.
Who was the last person to do it? Hugh Dalton was the Chancellor of the Exchequer who resigned in 1947 because he leaked one line of the budget. You come up with 4 different stories. One is the thing, when she was at HBOS and she was part of that management team that used to buy gifts for people on their birthdays and they're leaving. That wasn't dodgy expenses. And as for the credibility of where she was working, I don't think there's any argument about that. Yes, she made an error on her Southwark flat, no question about that. But, let he who is without sin cast the first stone when it comes to actually dealing with Southwark Borough Council, mate.
Yeah, all right. Just reminds me of Keith Vaz and washing machines, regardless of what goes on. Teflon Keith, he's all right. Benedict, thanks very much. Stephen, thank you. Appreciate your company. Sweet dreams.
Nice to see you, Benedict.
And we'll catch up soon. Right, still ahead on the Late Show Live.
You said Venezuela wants to talk. What does that mean?
Venezuela would like to talk. What does it mean? You tell me. I don't know.
We'll have all the latest on that rapidly developing story as Venezuela and the United States are on the brink of war this evening, but also tonight.
At times, there is simply nothing else that can be required other than violent retaliation. And this is a view I wholeheartedly agree with.
Well, the ousted president-elect of Oxford University's student union, who celebrated Charlie Kirk's death, he's apologised, but he claims he's victim of racism. Of course he has. Who could have guessed? No prizes. This is The Late Show Live. Back in a sec.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Let's bring in Steve N. Allen, GB News superstar, comedian, who's live from London to look at the front pages tonight, and indeed my panel here in DC, Hilary Fordwich and Niall Gardner. Hello, Steve N. Allen, nice to see you. Should we look at the front page of the Mail on Sunday, Steve? Keir Starmer under pressure tonight, in addition to Rachel Reeves. Who of them is going? Maybe both of them?
Well, I mean, maybe both of them. Also, maybe not. They might try and hang it out. I mean, Keir Starmer did give full support to Rachel Reeves, which normally is the kiss of death. Also is quite a change, because the last time he had the opportunity to give a full-throated support, he didn't, and she cried. So let's just put that in for context. But this is the story of a survey they've done. Because off the back of this story, of hearing from the OBR that they actually said things aren't quite the dire straits that we've been led to believe, that she was aware for a while that the black hole was disappearing, and then eventually, through one of the periods, 4.2 billion surplus was there to be played with. I think people are upset by this. So the survey says it's more than two-thirds of people say she should go over this. And it's all the headlines are all talking about lying. And it's not just about lying, is it? All chancellors will do some sort of holding back of information, that lie of omission. But this is about really spinning the information to make it seem like, here's the reason why we're going to tax you. Things are so bad, we have no choice but to increase tax. What we're going to do. Turns out you did have a choice. You didn't have to increase these taxes, and you were doing it to spend in areas that would keep your backbenchers happy. If you were just honest about that, I think some people who replied to this survey would have said, OK, we don't like what you're doing, but at least you've been honest. We see the logic that you're saying. You've got this money, you're going to spend it over here, and we're all going to get taxed. But the fact that we feel a little hoodwinked, we believe the narrative, and now we're just going to be paying tax for a different reason than we were sold. That's what upsets us.
Yeah, indeed. Hilary, it says in this Telegraph story tomorrow, in an extraordinary attempt to shore up the Chancellor's position, Number 10 claimed tonight that Miss Reeves' comments were, quote, entirely accurate with regards to the black hole. And they added that the Prime Minister was aware of the OBR figures and of the content of the speech. So he knew about it.
Well, to say that it was a hoodwink was a lovely, polite way to say about the ghastly lie here. And I think one of the greatest ramifications of all of this, when we hear about young people wanting to emigrate, I understand that every 45 minutes a millionaire leaves the UK. And you know what it reminds me of? History repeats itself. And Niall, I'm sure, can speak to this too, having worked with Prime Minister Thatcher after she was out of office. But, you know, back in the 70s, there was the great brain drain when the best of Britain was leaving in their droves. And I think we're seeing the same thing again here. So what does this mean for the future? It's the best and the brightest that go, not those people that are sitting around wanting to be on the dole. Yeah. That's what's ghastly, and that's the ramifications of this.
Yeah, and by the way, the reason the net migration figures were down is because so many people left the UK last year. Hundreds of thousands.
And we know who's coming in.
Yeah, the lower demographic brain drain, lower talented, creative youngsters, Brits, Europeans who are going, and you get a bunch of third worlders in. Niall, you're sitting there patiently. You want to unload on the government. I can sense it in my.
We need it, Niall.
Yeah, the reality is, and we know this well, that socialists lie all the time, and this Labour government is absolutely shameless. And the fact that Reeves is still the Chancellor after these outrageous lies. It tells you everything you need to know about the Labour government. I mean, this is a government that has no standards at all, actually. And they lie and deceive, of course, the British people. The British people have had enough. And we should be seeing the resignation, frankly, of the Chancellor and the Prime Minister as well. But such is the extraordinarily low standards of this government. You're going to see Starmer and Reeves clinging on to power at any price, at any cost. And I do believe this is the worst government that we've seen in British history. Actually, it's set an incredibly low bar. Britain is in an incredible state of decline right now, and there's a real sense of despair in the UK. The British people have had enough.
Yeah. Steve, last word to you, my friend. Do you think that maybe I have a point where I say maybe 10, 20 years ago, politicians would have resigned for one of those scandals that Rachel Reeves has been involved in, question marks over her behaviour at HBOS, was she an economist? Why now are the standards so low they just get away with it?
I think it's just the way politics is these days. It's almost like we're in this annoying advanced level of politics where no one can be truthful. I mean, this could have been a story where they were just honest about the stats they got. But politics is all about finding the right angle, the spin on it. How do you play this best to our advantage? Well, eventually you follow that logic through and you end up coming up with untruths, to use another knife euphemism. It's the politics we live in. People don't resign until they're absolutely forced out these days, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and it just blows apart trust in public institutions. Our politicians, once a well-considered, high-considered occupation, now people just have rightful disdain to them. I'm not saying there's not some decent politicians, but for the most part, look at the standard of the Labour government, so low grade. So they wouldn't get jobs in FTSE 100 companies, I'll tell you that. Steve, thank you very much. Hang tight, we'll catch up again in the next hour or so. More coming up in the next hour, including the latest on the Venezuela-US situation. Will the US tonight launch a ground invasion in South America? Back in a tick.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. This is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a quite bright and cool last day of November, but as we head into winter, it is going to start to turn a lot more unsettled as we start December. But for today at least, we have some nice bright sunny spells across much of the UK. It will be quite a chilly start across Scotland, maybe some icy patches here, and maybe just a few odd showers just drifting in towards the western coast as well. But otherwise, a much more settled day than what we saw at the first half of the weekend. Some nice sunshine, but it will feel rather chilly despite that sun. Much of the temperatures not really getting any higher than those mid-single figures, maybe just a little bit milder across the southwest. But all eyes then turn towards this band of rain that is starting to move in from the west. We will start to see that cloud drifting in towards the west country through the evening. But clearer skies remain across the southeast, but then you'll see this rain moving in towards Northern Ireland through the early part of the evening and just slowly starting to drift in towards western Scotland as well. But further towards the east, it will be a cold end towards Sunday. Temperatures here may even struggle to get above freezing to end Sunday as well. Like I said, this band of rain will slowly start to move its way eastwards through the evening period and overnight, and we do have some weather warnings in force to start December. So we have yellow warnings across the southwest and the northwest, but we have this amber warning across the southern part of Wales as well. So expect some flooding. There is going to be disruption to travel as well, so please do take care if you are looking to travel around first thing on Monday morning. But with this rain, it is going to be a windy day as well. Those strong winds coming up from the southwest. We could even again see some coastal gales across the west country coast as well. But that rain is still going to remain pretty strong through much of the day, but temperatures possibly just a couple of degrees above what we saw on Sunday.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say...
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good morning. Tonight on The Late Show Live, are we about to see the imminent ground invasion of Venezuela by the United States? And by the way, can you guess whose portrait David Lammy took down in his office to erect Pan-African flags? Hello, good evening. Breaking on The Late Show Live tonight.
Says Venezuela wants to talk. What does that mean?
Venezuela would like to talk. What does it mean? You tell me. I don't know.
War. What is it good for? President Trump has declared Venezuela's airspace closed. US forces are in position, and we could be seconds away from a direct conflict breaking out between America and Venezuela.
We've tried interdiction for 30 years. It doesn't work. They lose 2% of their profit margin.
Yeah.
They build it into the business plan. He says, now we're going to blow you up.
Yeah, just blow them up. Blow them up, that'll be all right. We'll bring the latest from that rapidly developing story very shortly. But also breaking tonight, federal prosecutors say they'll seek the death penalty against the suspect in the Washington, D.C. National Guard shooting, which of course tragically killed a 20-year-old troop and left another critically injured. Meanwhile, though, back in Britain...
I said I would cut the cost of living, and I meant it.
Pinocchio would be proud. Labour's biggest union backer breaks ranks, accusing Rachel Reeves of shredding trust and tearing up promises to workers. And breaking tonight, it's now emerged the Prime Minister, our dear Keir Starmer, signed off on her black hole lies. We'll also be cracking open tomorrow's front pages hours before the ink's dry. Breaking news, of course, before it comes news. And we're in live in Washington, D.C., just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories America's talking about and that matter to Britain too, including this one.
At times, there is simply nothing else that can be required other than violent retaliation. And this is a view I wholeheartedly agree with.
Well, that very smart chap, he's the president-elect of the Oxford Student Union who celebrated Charlie Kirk's death. He's now apologising, but not with dignity. Instead, he's gone full woe is me, painting himself as the victim.
I want to
settle the war, get it finished. Because if I'm not here, nobody's going to settle it.
President Trump is set to cut billion-dollar deals with Russia, eyeing post-war profits and shutting Europe completely out. America's winning whilst Britain misses out. I'm Ben Leo. This is The Late Show Live, and welcome along to the second hour, where we've got all the stories you'll be talking about later today, more debates, and hallelujah, 0 ad breaks. Don't go anywhere. Let's get back to that breaking news from Washington this evening. It's all kicking off. The situation between the United States and Venezuela has gone from tense to volatile to now, quite literally, potentially explosive. President Trump has declared the entire airspace over Venezuela closed in a dramatic warning which hints at imminent military action. On Truth Social, he wrote this morning, to all airlines, pilots, drug dealers and human traffickers, consider the airspace above surrounding Venezuela closed in its entirety. Now, legally, Washington can't close another country's skies, but when the commander-in-chief uses language like that, it's not diplomacy, it's a warning shot, which has been listened to by Caracas. And it's happening at the same time the United States has moved its largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, plus 15,000 troops to within striking distance of the Venezuelan capital. The move is the biggest US deployment to the region in 36 years. And if that wasn't enough, let's throw in some, I don't know, B-52 bombers, fighter jets, surveillance aircraft, drones, all of which have been running drills off the Venezuelan coast for weeks now. Tonight, the Federal Aviation Authority has also warned airlines of heightened military activity in the area, and President Trump had already warned that operations to stop Venezuelan drug trafficking by land would begin very soon. And tonight, it seems like that could happen any minute now. US forces have already launched 21 strikes on boats they say carried drugs, careering through the Caribbean Sea, killing more than 80 people. And the White House has also designated the president and dictator of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, a massive lefty, as a narco-terrorist and issued an arrest warrant for his capture. And by the way, if you're watching tonight and if you've got any information on Maduro's whereabouts, the US is offering 50 million big ones for that information. Venezuela, however, they deny all those claims, hitting out at the fiction.
Today, the Department of Justice and State Department are announcing a historic $50 million reward for information leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro. Maduro uses foreign terrorist organizations like TDA, Sinaloa, and Cartel of the Suns to bring deadly drugs and violence into our country.
Of war, Pete Hegseth, in a post on X today, said that claims the US have only just begun to kill narco-terrorists. Hegseth basically saying, we've only just got started. There it is, the tweet on your screen now. We have only just begun to kill narco-terrorists. 80 on the board at the moment. And the Secretary of State here in America, Marco Rubio, has claimed Maduro is not the president of Venezuela, adding that his government is not legitimate. And it's being reported that Nicolas Maduro himself has reached out to the White House seeking immediate communication on the situation following Super Hornets with carrier Air Wing 8, which have, within the past few minutes, been conducting continuous flights over southern Caribbean areas just off Venezuela, with them now returning to the USS Gerald R. Ford. And it was Maduro, I think it was last week, who took to the stage to sing John Legend's Imagine, I guess in some sort of announcement or declaration for peace. With me now is the former campaign advisor to Barack Obama, Spencer Critchley. Spencer, good evening. Thanks for your company. What's going on here, Spencer? Is it about the drugs? Is it about Maduro? Is it maybe about, in addition to all that, maybe the big haul of oil on Venezuela's east coast?
No, I think you've hit on some good points here. It's certainly not about the drugs. Venezuela is accountable for only a small fraction of the drugs coming into the United States. And if Trump were serious about reducing the inflow of drugs, he certainly would not be focusing on Venezuela, especially in the context of having just pardoned former President Hernandez of Honduras, who was serving a 45-year sentence after being convicted in the United States of being a massive smuggler of drugs, operating in direct cooperation with El Chapo, responsible for hundreds of tons of cocaine going into the United States. And it's certainly not about the threat of terrorism. As awful as these cartels are, including the Venezuelan cartel Tren de Aragua, they are not responsible for terrorist incidents in the United States. And meanwhile, once again, Trump just recently, within the last few weeks, pardoned CZ, the founder of Binance, who among his other crimes was reportedly funneling huge amounts of money to Hamas and Hezbollah through his cryptocurrency operation. So no, it's not about the drugs. It is about oil and gas, I think, as you say, would be a safe bet. I think it's also likely to be about Trump's imperial ambitions. He wants, for self-aggrandizement purposes apparently, to expand the map of the United States north through Canada and Greenland and south through the Panama Canal and Venezuela. And I think it's also serving as a distraction from the Epstein files. You know, it's a favorite technique of authoritarians to start wars in order to distract the people from what's being done to them. And with Trump, that includes not only taking away people's freedoms, but failing on multiple fronts.
I mean, it's hard. I don't know how you can call Trump an authoritarian. He won an election. There were elections here in the US some weeks ago where the Democrats cleaned up. So how's...
I'm sorry.
Well, Mamdani just won the mayoral race in New York. They won the races here in Virginia as well. So, I mean, the Democrats have been winning elections. So how is he an authoritarian?
No, Trump is a classic authoritarian demagogue. He gets people all worked up with fear and hatred towards these supposedly terrible threats.
You were making such good points, Spencer. You were doing so well making such good points, then you want to call him a fascist.
Look at Trump's flagrant violations of the law, his use of the U.S. military in American cities against American citizens, his attacks on all the institutions of our democracy, his corruption of the Justice Department and his use of it to go after his own political enemies. These are the classic moves of an authoritarian.
Because that never happened to him, did it? The DOJ was never weaponized against President Trump, was it?
I'm sorry, it did not.
Yeah.
There is absolutely no evidence. And if this was happening before, why would Joe Biden allow these Trump-appointed special counsels to continue to investigate him? Why was he so slow if he was directing prosecutions against President Trump? Why did he allow Merrick Garland to dither for 2 years before doing anything? It makes no sense at all, and there is no evidence that anything remotely like this has ever happened in the United States before. Richard Nixon comes close, but Trump makes Richard Nixon look like a piker.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to bring my panel in DC into the conversation. Former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner, and the political commentator Hilary Fordwich. Welcome back, panel. Niall, any comments for Spencer there? Trump an authoritarian?
Yes, I think Spencer's living in some parallel universe, frankly. And if you look back at the Obama era, what a disaster that was actually for American leadership on the world stage. Leading from behind is what the White House called it when Obama was president. In contrast, of course, President Trump leads from the front. He's not afraid to use American power against, frankly, monstrously evil and barbaric regimes, and that includes the Venezuelan regime. And yes, they are sending huge amounts of drugs to the United States, killing the American people. That's why the US has been taking action against dozens upon dozens of Venezuelan narco-terrorist boats heading towards the United States. And with very good reason. So the US is acting in self-defense here, and I think President Trump is absolutely right to be taking action against the Maduro regime in Venezuela. And you can be sure that Barack Obama, when he was president, did absolutely nothing at all, frankly, to take on the narco-terrorist regimes and the narco-terrorist organizations, the cartels. So the Obama administration was a complete and utter failure, in my view.
Okay, Hilary, your take?
Well, I think Niall's completely right. And when you look at what Barack Obama really did, Barack Obama really went around the world apologizing. He went on an apology tour on a global basis. And what I would say in terms of leadership is like parenting. I mean, give me a naughty, foul-mouthed, badly behaved child, and I'll give you the weak, feeble parent or absent parent. What President Trump is doing, not only leading from the front, but ask any family that's lost their child to any drug overdose or to crime in American cities, would they rather have that situation? No, they've lost loved ones. And I think what President Trump is doing is he's putting his foot down. We would not have had all these deaths in American cities. We would not have had all these deaths from American drugs if any other former president had ever put their foot down with any of these terrorist drug cartels.
Okay, Spencer, it's Thanksgiving here in America, I think still technically, maybe Thanksgiving weekend. Excuse my ignorant British knowledge of America. It's the season, perhaps, of goodwill. Can you name me something, Spencer, that you can give credit to President Trump to, something he's done that you like or approve of?
I'd like to, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to just say, look, it is not true that Venezuela is anything like a major source of drugs to the United States. That can just be ruled out. I happen to know what Barack Obama was doing during his time to fight the cartels. And if you look it up, you will find that he virtually crippled the Mexican-based cartels. He was extremely aggressive against them. It's an example of whataboutism in any case to say, what about Barack Obama? The point here is that Donald Trump is obviously not doing this because of any realistic threat of drugs. Nobody should feel any sympathy for Nicolas Maduro, who is a terribly corrupt dictator, or the drug cartels. But that's not what this is about. It's obviously not what this is about.
Okay, what is it about then? Just concisely, what is it about?
Well, you suggested it yourself, Ben, that, you mentioned oil and gas. I think that's, that would be reason number one to suspect. Trump has often bemoaned the failure, as he sees it, of the United States to seize Iraq's oil and gas during the Iraq War. He advertises this stuff himself. If he were serious about going after foreign sources of drugs, there are other places he could look that account for the great majority of drugs coming into the United States. He obviously doesn't care. Getting tough against the wrong target is just plain stupid. Whatever you think about the morality of it, it's just stupid. If you're policing a city, do you send all your police to the lowest crime neighborhoods? Of course not. You send your police to where the crime is, and that's the opposite of what Trump is doing.
All right, Spencer, last opportunity. One thing that you think Trump has done well on since taking power again in January?
Well, let's see. The problem with Trump is that the core issue with him is his own character. So I would say I'm glad that he was as firm as he was with Iran. I'm glad, in theory, that he's firm with China against some of the unfair trade competition practices that China does. But even if Trump were a brilliant president, in fact, in some ways I think that would be worse, because the problem with him is that he's a crook and a dictator, and he is trying to destroy our democracy purely to serve his own interests. So if he were actually good at the job, that would be even worse, because it's quite likely people would be quite happy to go along for the ride. But as it happens, he I think, providentially perhaps, he's bungling in many ways that even his supporters are starting to notice, for example, on the economy.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's plenty to criticise Trump for. Again, I would say just politely, you were doing so well, but then you called him a dictator. He's not a dictator. He was elected
I invite
in a
people
massive
to look
landslide.
at the record. Look at the record and
Spencer, there were elections here weeks ago where the Dems cleaned up.
Compare him to the dictators he openly admires. His favorite people are Vladimir Putin.
That doesn't make him a dictator if he admires dictators.
Kim Jong-un, Xi Jinping. He advertises his admiration for dictators, and you just look at
Spencer, let's be serious here. You're a clever guy.
Misusing the military.
All right.
One thing after another, he goes right down the checklist.
Okay, but he was elected, and there were elections here just weeks ago. One of the main attributes of a fascist state is a single-party state. The Dems cleaned up. Memdani cleaned up in New York. They won in Virginia. The Democrats have just won elections. So how is President Trump a dictator?
Yes. Well, he's also working busily to try to make sure there are not fair elections. For example, look at the gerrymandering in Texas, which seems to have failed, thank God. He's doing his best to ensure that there are not fair elections a year from now, and certainly in 2028. This is another thing to be extremely alarmed about. And democracies frequently end with the election, in a clean election, of an incipient autocrat who then sets about destroying the institutions of democracy. That's what we saw in Hungary with Orban. And this is the model that Trump is following in the United States.
All right, I take your point. I just think it's a little bit hypocritical that nobody of your side of the argument was piping up over the past 4 years when President Trump was being hauled through the courts by Soros-funded DAs in New York and all over the country, lawfare, trying to jail him for life, impeaching him, and you seem to think that the weaponization of the DOJ, maybe he is doing that now. I mean, from a human perspective, who can blame him?
Let's pretend that was actually happening.
With you saying it didn't happen before.
Does that make it okay? Let's pretend it was happening.
No, I'm not saying it's okay, but I'm saying you are being hypocritical by saying it hasn't happened before.
No, the argument here is, well, the other guys did it, so whatever the worst thing they ever did, that's what we want to do. That's hardly an argument, is it?
No, it's not my argument.
It did not happen.
I'm a Brit. I'm not getting involved in your politics. I'm just saying.
I'm sorry. If it had been happening, there would be evidence for it. And there has never been any evidence presented. Trump has access to all of the possible evidence.
Boss Barack Obama,
Trump as president has access to all of the evidence. He could be presenting that evidence. He could have presented the evidence at any time if it existed.
It's not the Spencer Show.
But the evidence apparently does not exist.
It's not the Spencer Critchley Show. It's the Late Show Live hosted by me. Your old boss Barack Obama, Spencer, spied on President Trump's campaign. Some would call that treasonous. Did you advise him to do that?
I'm sorry, this is a lie.
It's not a lie.
Again,
did you advise him to do that, Spencer?
And it turns out to be the actions that Tulsi Gabbard was pointing to with breathless excitement had been widely reported and are completely innocuous. Again, I invite people to just use Google and actually go looking for evidence instead of conspiracy theories.
Okay, Spencer, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Hopefully we'll catch up soon. Take care of yourself. Breaking in the last 30 seconds or so, Venezuela's foreign ministry has issued a statement in response to the President Trump announcing that airspace should be closed over Venezuela. They've called it a colonialist threat that seeks to undermine the sovereignty of its airspace, constituting a new, extravagant, illegal and unjustified aggression against the people of Venezuela. Niall, can I just show you this clip we've got of Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, responding to the European Union and probably including the UK in that, who are complaining and moaning about international order, international law. Let's take a look at that.
I don't think that the European Union gets to determine what international law is. They certainly don't get to determine is how the United States defends its national security. The United States is under attack from organized criminal narco-terrorists in our hemisphere, and the president is responding in the defense of our country. I do find it interesting that all these countries want us to send, and supply, for example, nuclear-capable Tomahawk missiles to defend Europe, but when the United States positions aircraft carriers in our hemisphere where we live, somehow that's a problem. So I would say that the United States is, and this president has made very clear, his job is to protect the United States from threats against the United States, and that is what he's doing in this operation.
So, Niall, Marco Rubio basically saying, mind your own business, Europe, EU, and by the way, stop asking us for Tomahawk missiles to give to Ukraine.
Absolutely right from Marco Rubio, who I think is an outstandingly good Secretary of State, actually. And, the EU, massive bunch of hypocrites, really. And who are they to lecture the United States about what the US can and cannot do, even in its own backyard? The European Union is not some democratic entity. In fact, it suppresses national sovereignty and self-determination. There's nothing democratic, frankly, about the EU, which is why the British people left the European Union back in 2016. And all of these, horrible attacks coming from Brussels on the United States deserve the kind of response that Marco Rubio is giving, which is mind your own business. The United States is the world's superpower. And the US will do exactly what it needs to do to defend its interests and defend its national security and to save American lives. It's not the business of the EU to be lecturing the US about what it can and cannot do.
And also, don't lecture the United States, European Union, at a time when you are still buying Russian gas and funding the Russian war machine.
Exactly.
Damn bunch of hypocrites. Mind your
100% right.
Mind your own filthy business.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're all unelected bureaucrats. That's the whole problem with the EU. Who actually wants what they're doing? Look at the European economy. Look at anything they've led. Look at the economy. Look at the safety. Look what happened with the Ukraine. You're totally right about the gas there. And one of the things I always think of Henry Kissinger, who said, I'll believe in the EU when there's one number to call. They're all acting in their own interests anyway. I mean, the Germans care about their car exports and all their exports to the US. The French care about their exports. The French care about their economy. And look also what's happened with regard to immigration. They haven't kept their nation safe. So what have they succeeded at? You should look at their success track record. They don't have much.
It's kind of like taking marriage advice off a 5-time divorcee. It's like, guys, you're not getting anything right in your own backyard.
Exactly.
Don't start lecturing the United States, you bunch of hypocrites. Right, let me know your thoughts on that. gbnews.com/your say. And also, you can become a friend of GB News. It's free and only takes a moment.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
All right, still ahead on The Late Show Live.
God help us. She is spineless, shameless, and completely aimless.
Kemi did it right there, didn't she? I think it was a pretty decent performance at the dispatch box. Westminster is on resignation watch this evening because, as it's reported, we've covered it a few times tonight, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, signed off on Rachel Reeves' black hole lies. Also tonight, here's a story you definitely don't want to miss.
At times, there is simply nothing else that can be required other than violent retaliation. And this is a view I wholeheartedly agree with.
That is the Oxford Student Union president-elect who celebrated Charlie Kirk being shot. He's now apologised but said that he's the victim and he's a victim of racism. Of course you did, mate. We'll get stuck into that in just a sec. Right, the former president-elect of the Oxford Union, George Aberonier, has apologised to Charlie Kirk's family over comments he made following the assassination of the MAGA influencer. Hours after the news broke regarding the shooting some weeks ago, this guy posted on Instagram, "Charlie Kirk got shot, lol," which means laugh out loud. He also wrote in a WhatsApp group of union members, "Charlie Kirk got shot. Let's effing go." And by the way, that came just months after he debated Charlie personally in the Oxford Union. He turned up wearing a tracksuit with a scabby T-shirt, no standards, no class whatsoever. Charlie Kirk, honourable enough, gentlemanly enough to debate him and shake his hand, and after he was assassinated, he went and laughed about it. Anyway, he's now claiming that he received racist messages calling for him to be shot and deported after his celebration texts were published for the world to see. With me now is the Chief Executive of Turning Point UK, Jack Ross. Jack, good morning. Thanks for your company. He's apologised finally to Charlie Kirk's family. I shouldn't think Charlie Kirk's family give a damn, actually, what he has to say. But he said, actually, people were being racist towards me after the texts were revealed.
I think it's just a classic left-wing switcheroo tactic as such. He's trying to distract from the fact that he said something completely outrageous and horrific for anyone to say, let alone the president of the Oxford Union. And it just seems like he's trying to avoid taking responsibility for what he said. I don't know if you saw the piece which came out in the Times where that was his initial apology in there. But it looks like he's hired a PR firm. It doesn't look genuine at all. And in terms of, say, forgiveness, for example, forgiveness is for people who are genuinely sorry. I don't think he's sorry. I think he's realised he's now unemployable and he's realised he's messed up. And that's why he's coming out with this apology, which isn't really an apology.
Yeah, silly little boy, I'd like to say. My panel here in DC, Niall Gardner, Henry Fordwich. Niall, did you see this story breaking in the UK? This guy came out, of course, his texts were exposed. He was celebrating Charlie's death. What do you make of his apology today? Should we take it with good grace?
No, I don't think so. Utterly pathetic and... His comments were malevolent, nasty, disgraceful, and they really, I think, besmirched the reputation of the Oxford Union here. And I have to say that you know, this kind of you know, left-wing nastiness does not deserve to be forgiven, frankly. And it's very sad to see individuals, you know, like this, claiming they are victims when they are the aggressors here. besmirching, of course, the reputation of Charlie Kirk and also the institution of the Oxford Union. I'm an Oxford graduate. I used to debate at the Oxford Union. It's shameful to see what has happened to one of the great institutions of Great Britain, frankly. And
would you have turned up, Niall, in tracksuit bottoms and a wholly scabby T-shirt like that guy did?
An absolute disgrace, actually. I mean, he's practically wearing his pajamas, frankly.
Look at the state of him. I'm sorry, you go to one of the best universities. You are so privileged enough to go to one of the best universities in the world. You've got one of the world's leading debaters, conservative commentators there to debate you, and you turn up looking like that. And he's wearing Ugg boots, I think, as well, Hillary.
Yeah, it's just rude and disrespectful and very, very sad, frankly, to see this kind of disgusting behaviour.
Yes, and I would say there's absolutely no instance, no matter what, regardless of your political beliefs, regardless of any beliefs that anyone has, there's no time when you celebrate and you laugh at someone's death, someone's assassination at any juncture, let alone what he stood for. And I do think he was of immense privilege. He had this opportunity to represent not only his country, basically, from where his origin, but he also had he was representing Oxford. And as Niall just said, as a graduate from there, he was actually besmirching all of those that have ever gone before him, because you can't actually now rejoice in someone's death when it is somebody just because you disagree with their political slant. And I will think also, the other thing I think is that he could not hold his own with Charlie Kirk. Maybe he felt humiliated by him, and maybe he felt belittled by him, and that's where some of his resentment comes from. But it's absolutely abhorrent.
Oh, utterly useless. You know, he couldn't get a word out, couldn't read without looking at his notes. Charlie destroyed him. Jack, Charlie, of course, was an evangelical Christian. He was a man of God. I mean, I've met him once. I went on his show after we interviewed him in London. I spoke to him a couple of times. I think maybe he probably would forgive this guy.
So, as I said, in terms of forgiveness from the Christian perspective, forgiveness is for people who are genuinely sorry. And I don't think this George character is sorry. I think he's been caught out. If he was sorry, he would have resigned. But he didn't resign. He left the post kicking and screaming. He had his supporters go and try and intimidate people during the vote of no confidence. He then went on to appeal the vote of no confidence instead of resigning, apologising, and then everyone could have left it at that. But he's someone who just strikes me as a professional victim who said something which him and his mates clearly agree with behind the scenes, and now it's been exposed to the public. He's realised how extreme those opinions really are.
Yeah, what a loser. Jack, before I let you go, just tell us about Turning Point UK. Have you seen a massive uptick in, what do they call the gatherings, the debates? It's chapels. Is it a chapel? Have you seen an uptick in sort of activity at your end? Chapters, sorry, yeah.
So, obviously, what happened to Charlie was heartbreaking, and it really devastated us over here. It's certainly our colleagues in the US as well. But I guess one of the only positives we can take away is we have seen a massive uptake in people contacting us and getting involved. We've seen a lot of students come forwards, a lot of students actually standing up for free speech. And I think it's woken a lot of people up who previously would have been on the sidelines and didn't want to get involved. And they've realised how dire the situation is at our universities and in our wider society, where they feel they have to speak up. And I think we're certainly charging forward in Charlie's name.
Good stuff. Well done, Jack. Appreciate your company tonight. Thank you for joining us on The Late Show Live. That's Jack Ross, the Chief Exec of Turning Point UK. Right, coming up next on The Late Show Live.
I want to settle the war, get it finished. Because if I'm not here, nobody's going to settle it.
President Trump, after the deal, ever the businessman, he's set to cut billion-dollar deals with Russia, eyeing massive swathes of post-war profits and, by the way, surprise, surprise, shutting Europe out. Also tonight.
We beat the forecasts this year, and we will beat them again.
Well, it seems like the truth has also been given a pretty damn beating tonight. As it's emerged, the PM signed off on Rachel Reeves' black hole lie that she used to justify tax rises, the biggest tax burden in the UK in our history. Great. Love it. Keir Starmer knew about it. This is The Late Show Live. Here's your weather. Back in a sec.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. This is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a quite bright and cool last day of November, but as we head into winter, it is going to start to turn a lot more unsettled as we start December. But for today at least, we have some nice bright sunny spells across much of the UK. It will be quite a chilly start across Scotland, maybe some icy patches here, and maybe just a few odd showers just drifting in towards the western coast as well. But otherwise, a much more settled day than what we saw at the first half of the weekend. Some nice sunshine, but it will feel rather chilly despite that sun. Much of the temperatures not really getting any higher than those mid-single figures, maybe just a little bit milder across the southwest. But all eyes then turn towards this band of rain that is starting to move in from the west. We will start to see that cloud drifting in towards the west country through the evening. But clearer skies remain across the southeast, but then you'll see this rain moving in towards Northern Ireland through the early part of the evening and just slowly starting to drift in towards western Scotland as well. But further towards the east, it will be a cold end towards Sunday. Temperatures here may even struggle to get above freezing to end Sunday as well. Like I said, this band of rain will slowly start to move its way eastwards through the evening period and overnight, and we do have some weather warnings in force to start December. So we have yellow warnings across the southwest and the northwest, but we have this amber warning across the southern part of Wales as well. So expect some flooding. There is going to be disruption to travel as well, so please do take care if you are looking to travel around first thing on Monday morning. But with this rain, it is going to be a windy day as well. Those strong winds coming up from the southwest. We could even again see some coastal gales across the west country coast as well. But that rain is still going to remain pretty strong through much of the day, but temperatures possibly just a couple of degrees above what we saw on Sunday.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Right, welcome back. President Trump is plotting a $300 billion peace through profit deal, quote unquote, with Vladimir Putin, boosting the US economy while Britain risks, unfortunately, being shut out of the deal entirely. The plan includes unlocking $2 trillion of frozen Russian assets, rebuilding Ukraine under US leadership, and even partnering with Moscow on a Mars mission. Really? Partner with them on a mission to Mars. Goodness me, how times change. So anyway, as Washington plans to walk away richer, is it time for us in Blighty to get in on the action too? My panel's back with me now, the political commentator Hilary Fordwich and the former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. Hilary, so President Trump bringing this peace deal forward, trying to bring the bloodshed and the killing to an end, but again, yes, as a bit of a bonus, also getting in there with a deal.
Yes, I will say this. I've never heard a leader constantly, always talk about trying to stop the killing. I think he honestly, really, from the bottom of his heart, cares about the lives of all those that are slaughtered. But yeah, yes, he's making a great deal on top of this. And I think he's always thinking about America first. And one thing that he has to do, definitely by July of 26, if the economy doesn't improve and if affordability, which is the #1 topic, isn't addressed, and if the average American does not feel that the economy has done better and that they can't afford things better, it's called in America pocketbook issues, which is handbag in England, I will say he will not do well in the midterm. So this is I think killing two birds with one stone, so to speak. I think that what he's trying to do is, yes, bring peace, and of course he's looking at the midterms.
Niall, Gary on gbnews.com/your say has said, of course Britain was left out. Labour don't like Trump.
Well, I mean, that's a good point. I would say, you know, with regard to Ukraine, the exact details of any peace deal are still being, you know, worked on, negotiated, and so at this stage, I think there's a lot of speculation. But one thing is clear: only President Trump, I think, has the power on the world stage to bring an end to the war and force Putin to the negotiating table. Certainly, Joe Biden was not able to do that, but President Trump, you know, has the gravitas and the power to force Putin to negotiate, and that's what we are seeing. So we'll have to see what happens. I would prefer, of course, to see the Russians kept out of any role in terms of you know, post-war reconstruction in Ukraine, for example, after all the Russians are the cause of the war. They're the aggressors here. And also we've got to keep the Chinese out as well. But as you did say, Ben, that certainly, I mean, the UK seems to be increasingly peripheral to what's happening here. And, Keir Starmer, doesn't have anything like the gravitas of President Trump on the world stage. That's the reality.
Yeah, and it just kind of shines a spotlight on the wider issue of, I said when Labour got elected, you've got two choices. You can either cozy up to the European Union and start trying to get back into bed with them. There's sort of talk about rejoining the single market and so on. Or look west to America. President Trump says the hottest country in the world right now. Whether you agree with that or not, I don't know, but at least they're putting their nation first. And actually, by the way, with that cable released to European embassies, including the UK embassy in London, from the United States, from the Department of Homeland Security, warning Western civilizations, sort immigration out.
Yeah,
it's a massive problem.
Yes.
You are risking not just your country's going to hell, but the entire Western civilization.
It's the number one issue really for the West right now.
Yes.
It's mass migration, illegal migration, and President Trump is absolutely right about this. Unless European nations are going to be serious about protecting their own borders and their own sovereignty, it's the end of Western civilization as we know it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call it even migration. It's an invasion.
Yeah.
It is an invasion, yeah.
Yes.
Well, it kind of re-emphasises my point, which is that America is, as I argue, they're acting for the interests, of course, America first, but also one eye on Western civilization as well, which is why I think Labour, Keir Starmer, they've kind of, they've got a good relationship diplomatically. President Trump says he likes Keir Starmer for some reason, but I think we should have had a much cosier relationship with America as opposed to Keir Starmer trying to do the juggling act of, appeasing the European Union, kind of keeping Trump at arm's length.
The proof is in the pudding. Look at the small boats. How many women and children do you see on there? How many elderly gentlemen do you see? You see young men of fighting age. That is frightening.
Okay. Let's return to this big breaking story this evening. It's on the front page of a couple of papers tomorrow. Let's take a quick reminder.
£22 billion black hole in the public finances left by the party opposites.
The Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, reportedly knew there was no black hole in the public finances, and yet, he still allowed Rachel Reeves to stand at that dispatch box and warn Britain of a shortfall that simply did not exist. This is the front page on your screens of the Sunday Telegraph tomorrow. Downing Street has tonight told the Sunday Telegraph, and I think the Mail on Sunday, that Rachel Reeves' claims were, quote, entirely accurate. But the OBR's own published account shows the Treasury overstated the problem, exaggerated the gap, and talked up a crisis to justify £30 billion worth of tax rises, the highest tax burden Britain has ever seen. And Labour's biggest donor has also turned on the Chancellor tonight, with the head of the Unite Union, Sharon Graham, accusing Rachel Reeves of betraying workers with her budget. Well, let's get the take now of former Conservative MP Heather Wheeler. Heather, good morning. Thank you for your company at this hour. Appreciate it. Some really damning front pages on the Telegraph and the Mail on Sunday. Keir Starmer knew about this fiasco.
Yeah, this is really very bad politics indeed. I mean, it's just a straightforward lie. And goodness only knows what the poor Mr. Speaker's going to do on Monday. I mean, I'm sure there'll be an urgent question, and I'm sure he'll have to accept it. But, when you've got written evidence that the headroom, in other words, more money than you thought you were going to have, was at 2.4 million, and then the OBR came back and said, it's actually better, it's 4.2 billion, for this farrage of lies to come together to give her cover to put these taxes in, and it's all about looking after her backbenchers and trying to keep her job. Well, that's absolutely a step too far.
Yeah, and Heather, I've heard from some former Labour MPs tonight, Stephen Pounds, saying, this isn't a resignation matter. It's unpatriotic to call for the resignation of a Chancellor or a Prime Minister. And I say, hang on a minute. You guys, particularly Labour, you brought down Boris Johnson primarily for some crusty M&S sandwiches in Downing Street. I know it was Chris Pincher who got a bit handsy and Boris fumbled the ball on, Pincher was the cherry on the cake. But primarily you were calling for Boris Johnson's head because of cake in Downing Street. And now you want to say that this matter with Rachel Reeves is not a resigning matter. It's the hypocrisies are standing, Heather.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, I'm not in Parliament now, so I'm allowed to absolutely use the word hypocrisy. And I think the public absolutely hate it. They can see through this, see it for what it is. But even more than that, you just say to yourself, how can you live your life only achieving things by lying, and for the Prime Minister to have signed off on it as well? I mean, this is beyond desperate. This is ridiculous. They actually could have gone to, you know, at the dispatch box and said, here's the rabbit out the hat. I don't need to hold the tax thresholds as they are, dragging nurses and teachers and senior ambulance people into the 40% tax bracket. I don't need to do that. I'm on your side. Well, they're not doing that. So Mel Stride has been absolutely right to say the markets were affected by this. People's lives were affected by this. And it is a matter of conscience. She should go. She should resign.
Yeah, and Mel Stride has also called on the FCA to launch an investigation into what he calls markets abuse. So resigning might be the least of Rachel Reeves or Keir Starmer's issues.
Yeah, this could be a criminal offence. That is why this is so serious. And why on earth, you know, dear Sir Keir, the ex-DPP, the great lawyer of our country, how on earth he could turn a blind eye to this and sign off on it, I just find that astonishing. Astonishing.
Heather, before I let you go, can you just explain to me, please, parliamentary procedure? What will happen on Monday? You mentioned the Speaker. How will this be sort of thrashed out in Parliament?
My experience tells me that a Conservative, or indeed it could be SNP or anybody, can ask the Speaker that there should be an urgent question to the Chancellor about this new information that's come out from the OBR. A written letter on Friday from the OBR explaining the timelines when they actually told her there was more money, not less money. So she did not need to raise taxes, and calling it a black hole of 20 billion is just a straight lie. So we asked for an urgent question, and the Speaker will I imagine, will grant it.
OK, Heather, thanks so much. Great to speak with you. I think it's your debut on the Late Show Live. Will you come back on?
Oh, always. Pleasure.
Great, appreciate you. Heather Wheeler, former Tory MP there. Thank you, Heather. Sweet dreams. Right, quick word from the panel here. I mean, we've done this to death now, but Niall, Rachel Reeves, what will happen come Monday? Are we just going to, as I keep describing it, because it's the best description of political scandals in the UK. In fact, any scandal. If anything goes wrong in the UK, and I'll repeat myself like a broken record, we sit there, we mutter about it, and then we move on and forget. Is that what's going to happen this time?
Yeah, I fear that will happen because this government has no sense of shame whatsoever. There's no dignity with this government, and that's why they're sailing at around 15% in the polls right now. But the British people don't trust the Labour government, and this government lies and lies and lies all the time, and they have no shame. So I don't expect that we're going to see Rachel Reeves volunteering to resign, but this is a moment when Parliament really has to set the standard and say enough is enough on behalf of the British people and demand her resignation, and the resignation, frankly, of the Prime Minister as well.
Hilary, sorry to interject, if they do resign or they're ousted from other means, do we need a general election?
I think we should have a general election, because let's just remember, they actually weren't elected in terms of people wanting them. It was more of a protest vote. And I think that was the ramification, obviously, of a failed Conservative government, which was very sad. But a general election would be healthy, because let's give Nigel Farage the chance that he needs to rectify all these wrongs and get Britain to be great again.
Great. Beverly Pearce on Your Say has said, I think the whole country should march on London to get an election. Beverly, don't let the BBC see that comment, because they'll probably say that you're calling for everybody to march on London and fight like hell and cause chaos.
Jailed.
You'll be jailed, Beverly. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live. We'll be unpacking tomorrow's front pages while they're fresh off the press. No breaks, remember. Back in just a tick. Right, let's delve into some of the main stories on the front of tomorrow's newspapers. GB News contributor, comedian, superstar Steve N. Allen is down the line from London. Steve, we've done Rachel Reeves and the Prime Minister to death. What else would you like to talk about?
Of the Express, but it is budget adjacent, which I know, I'm sorry, budget fatigue, it's got us all going, hasn't it? It's not even our fault. We had like 3 months of talking about it before it was a thing. It was the leakiest budget ever. Then it was leaked on the day, so we had to talk about that. Then we've had to talk about the lying thing. There's also another the think tank that's looked into it, saying that hard-working families with 3 children have to earn £71,000 to bring in as much money of a similar household living entirely on benefits. Now, you can run through some of the questions about, you know, exact figures or not. Even if you can question the exact figures, the general direction is going to be true, isn't it? That we're in a situation now where something that people will believe should be a safety net there. You know, you can judge a society by how it deals with its most vulnerable. Having a welfare system there as a safety net, all very well. But this is not looking like a safety net anymore when you have to earn £71,000 to catch up with people who are living off benefits.
I know. There was another example doing the rounds on social media, Steve, where some woman was earning, I think she was taking home about £2,000 a month from her job, part-time job, but she was being topped up with universal credit, some sort of housing benefit, child credit. She was on the equivalent of £135,000 a year.
Can I take notes? How do we do that? Because my daughter lives in London. I want to be able to tell her.
Oh, I'm off. I'm going to go and sign on. I'll leave you guys to it. I'm out of here. Universal credit's waiting for me.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. One more story to get stuck into. It's been revealed, Steve, that David Lammy's Foreign Office quietly removed a portrait of the Queen Elizabeth II, and replaced it with a pair of Pan-African flags. Let me just repeat that because it's insane. It's been revealed David Lammy's Foreign Office removed a portrait of the Queen and replaced it with a pair of African flags. After Labour's election win in July, officials at the Foreign Office carried out what's been described as a flurry of redecoration in Whitehall, and the changes saw new Pan-African artwork installed across the building, with long-standing pieces, including the Queen's portrait, moved out as Lammy settled into the role, Steve.
What, so you're saying David Lammy is somehow linked to an embarrassing story? Wait, hold the front pages. This is such a shocker. Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it, that they do that? I mean, it's also there's a front page story as well talking about how judges are praising juries, because that's the other thing David Lammy's looking at, getting rid of the right to a jury. So it's been one absolute catastrophe after another. In many ways, if you did a top 10 thing David Lammy's done, taking down the portrait of the Queen isn't going to make the top 10. So that's probably good news or bad news. I'm not quite sure which way you look at it.
I know, what a joke. And also, did you see Rachel Reeves, when she first moved into number 11, was this right? She installed a portrait of a massive commie, some leading communist. Do you remember this?
That's what I recall. I can't remember which communist it was.
Let me tell you, I'm sure you're all experts in leading communists. She replaced a portrait. No, oh my goodness me, this is it. She replaced a portrait of your old boss, Margaret Thatcher, with a picture of one of the founding members of the Communist Party of Britain.
Oh, unbelievable.
She took down Maggie and replaced her with a commie. What would Maggie say?
She should resign for that alone, frankly.
Yes.
I mean, that's, you know.
Yeah, well, that explains the budget, eh?
What does the Prime Minister Thatcher said when she said that the problem with socialism is you run out of spending other people's money? It would be interesting to see what they think they're going to do with the money that communists would have generated for them for their salary.
And David Lammy's actions, removing a portrait of the Queen, I mean, that's absolutely shocking. And, you know, Lammy is, you know, is an absolute disgrace as Deputy Prime Minister, formerly as Foreign Secretary. And you have a government in place that, frankly, hates Britain, really.
Yes.
It's a sort of, it bows down, of course, to all sorts of supranational entities, the UN, the European Union, and it's all about doing Britain down, frankly, is you know, what this Labour government does. And Lammy's actions are really, really appalling. Even for Lammy, I think this is a new low.
Can I say that
Britain
about...
lost.
Yeah,
well,
Britain lost.
Yeah, go on, Steve.
I was going to say about when it comes to thinking about David Lammy and his performance on Mastermind, if anything, he needs more pictures of more monarchs, so he might be able to learn how numbers work. That might be a good one.
Oh, I've got one more story to share with you. First of all, though, I want to know, Steve, what would your topic be on Mastermind?
It would be something nerdy like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so let's not say that out loud on TV.
Oh, I used to really fancy Buffy. Who was the actress? No, what would your topic be?
1980s movies, I think.
And Hilary?
Anything but pop culture of today?
Mine would be 1998 World Cup starting 11s from all countries across the world. Don't ask me why, but I just seem to know them all. Right, one more story, Steve. Reform UK has accused the BBC of targeting its councillors since the local elections in May. This is a story in the Telegraph tomorrow. Analysis by Farage's party claims the Beeb reported on 95% of Reform councillors who had resigned, defected or been suspended or expelled from the party. So 95% of all councillors that had been through that. Reform said it compared with just 15% of Labour and Tory councillors who had lost their party whip since May the 1st. Does that surprise you, Steve?
It doesn't, but on this one I do have a bit of pushback, a bit of balance for it, because the one thing that's happening in the world of politics is that Reform gets the headlines. It's interesting, and quite often people complain about how often you'll be, even politicians talk about Reform a lot. There were a period when, I think it was the Daily Mail, every single front page was always about what Reform were thinking about a story, regardless of whether the story was linked to them. And that's one thing Reform has done incredibly well. They know how to use the news cycle, they understand how it works. So if you are that newsworthy, I suppose you are going to get reported about more if you have councillors resign. So on this one, I think there's a greater detail under the headline.
Niall, and people do say about Reform being on the likes of Question Time and Newsnight and so on, and say, oh my God, Nigel Farage has been on 10 times on Question Time in the last 2 years. Have they got a point?
Well, I mean, Nigel Farage, of course, is one of the most brilliant communicators of our time, frankly, in the UK, and he's absolutely superb, really, at speaking directly to the British people. So there's no surprise that Nigel Farage is featured so frequently. But I expect you're going to see a whole wave of new Reform stars emerging actually over the course of the next 2 or 3 years ahead of the next election.
Some that we're not aware of right now, you mean?
Yeah, and I think so. But also, if you look at figures like Danny Kruger, for example, defected from the Conservatives, I think he's a real rising star. And you'll see probably other defections as well in the months ahead. So, yeah, I do think Reform are brilliant on communication, and that's why they're leading.
A BBC spokesman has said the BBC reports without fear or favour and holds power, and those who seek power to account. Very good. Steve, one last question to all my panel. I like to do this now on my shows because I like to move it away from news. What are you up to tomorrow? What's your plans on this Sunday tomorrow?
So me, the wife, the 2 kids, one's 1, one's 3, we're going to go and get a Christmas tree. We're going to get an actual live one and, deal with all the mess that's going to bring. But given the fact my son's 3, it's the first one where he really gets it. So it's just going to be wonderful. And we get to, indulge in all of that.
Mate, it's great. Christmas has its magic again when you've got kids. I'm happy for you. Hilary, what are you doing tomorrow, quickly?
Yeah, major hike in the invigorating weather here and major catch-up for next week because it's a busy business season coming up before Christmas.
Planning the downfall of the Labour government.
Great, good stuff. All right, I'm working tomorrow, so I'll see you tomorrow night from midnight. Thank you for your company tonight. Thank you to my panel. Sweet dreams, and I'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy yourselves. Good night.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. This is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a quite bright and cool last day of November, but as we head into winter, it is going to start to turn a lot more unsettled as we start December. But for today at least, we have some nice bright sunny spells across much of the UK. It will be quite a chilly start across Scotland, maybe some icy patches here, and maybe just a few odd showers just drifting in towards the western coast as well. But otherwise, a much more settled day than what we saw at the first half of the weekend. Some nice sunshine, but it will feel rather chilly despite that sun. Much of the temperatures not really getting any higher than those mid-single figures, maybe just a little bit milder across the southwest. But all eyes then turn towards this band of rain that is starting to move in from the west. We will start to see that cloud drifting in towards the west country through the evening. But clearer skies remain across the southeast, but then you'll see this rain moving in towards Northern Ireland through the early part of the evening and just slowly starting to drift in towards western Scotland as well. But further towards the east, it will be a cold end towards Sunday. Temperatures here may even struggle to get above freezing to end Sunday as well. Like I said, this band of rain will slowly start to move its way eastwards through the evening period and overnight, and we do have some weather warnings in force to start December. So we have yellow warnings across the southwest and the northwest, but we have this amber warning across the southern part of Wales as well. So expect some flooding. There is going to be disruption to travel as well, so please do take care if you are looking to travel around first thing on Monday morning. But with this rain, it is going to be a windy day as well. Those strong winds coming up from the southwest. We could even again see some coastal gales across the West Country coast as well. But that rain is still going to remain pretty strong through much of the day, but temperatures possibly just a couple of degrees above what we saw on Sunday.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Saturday night and this is the Saturday Five, but in extra form. It's the UK's biggest Saturday night TV show. I'm Will Kingston, along with Dr. Renee Hunderkamp, Trey Lowe, Adam Cherry and Kai Wilshaw. Tonight on the show, as we approach the festive season, we're going to be sharing our favourite Christmas films in High Five.
Is it possible to age backwards?
And should Tom Skinner be the next Chancellor? That's an Ask for Five.
Round them all up. Put them in a big room that kind of looks like it could be a gas chamber.
And some crazy triggered tantrums coming your way.
That is, again, straight out of the Labour rights playbook. If we carry on this road, it will alienate people who want to get involved in building this party.
Yes, Britain's
We're all in
greatest political project. Your party's conference is off to a great start.
Yes, sorry, I had to interrupt you because, you know, you're all part of the same
You just love your
team.
party.
In any case, it's 8 p.m, it's the Saturday 5 Extra. Anything could happen. Welcome to 8 p.m, Saturday 5 Extra.